All right, we are officially recording this meeting now, and welcome everybody. I am writing down your names of everyone that's participating this morning. And for those of you who are not able to participate, we are recording this for you for your convenience because I know some of you have a work schedule or had already had appointments planned this morning. So we have Julia Agnew with us today, and she is a representative from our career services, and career services is set up to help you at every phase of your job search as well as preparation for your interviews. So I've already gone over a little bit of this today, but she is going to share more with us about preparing for our interviews or the workplace setting, no matter if it is something that is online now that we have so much that's virtual to being in a face-to-face interaction. So take it away, Julia Agnew. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, good morning. Thank y'all for having me. I'll show my face at the end so you can see what I look like, but I'm going to go ahead and just jump into the presentation. So today we're going to focus on interviewing, and we work with a lot of local employers, and they give us advice. They tell us what they're looking for, what they are not looking for, and so a lot of this information that we have gotten is from them. One of the first things that I tell students who are interviewing is to prepare themselves. So how can you best prepare yourself for an interview? Write down everything you need to know. So the date and the time, the interviewer's name and title. The person who calls you for the interview might not be the person who is actually interviewing you. So it could be a secretary, a representative, an administrative assistant, a recruiter. Make sure you know who you're actually going to be with when they interview you and what their title is. Make sure you know how to get there. I know we all have GPS in our car, on our phone, but make sure you know, for instance, if you're interviewing at a place like Calhoun, we have 2 campuses. If it's not specific, if they don't tell you when they call, this is an interview, the job itself may be on the Decatur campus, but the committee you're interviewing with might want to interview you on the Huntsville campus. So make sure you know where you're going and you don't end up on the wrong campus or at the wrong location. And make sure you have a callback number. 565 traffic is no one's friend, and you may get caught in construction or behind a wreck, or you may wake up with the stomach virus. So you need to be able to get in touch with whoever has called you if anything comes up prior to your interview. Now, how can you be prepared if you have a virtual interview? Even though we are living in COVID pandemic days, I think that virtual interviewing will continue to be a thing that employers offer. Sometimes it's just convenient if you're moving and you aren't able to drive. Maybe that initial interview is virtual. Make sure your internet connection works. Make sure your microphone works and your camera. So you don't want to enter the Zoom or Teams or whatever room on your laptop or on your phone or however you're doing your interview and it not work. So you want to test it before the person gets on there and starts talking to you. Make sure you know something about the company. Every reputable company is going to have a website. So look at their website, know who they serve, who their customers are, what do they do, what industry are they in? When did they become a company? Where are they located? Do they have multiple locations? How did they get started? Are they involved in the community? Know why you personally want to work for this company. So you may be graduating or you may be a current student and you just need a job. So in your mind, it doesn't really matter what the job is, you just need to pay your bills. But you want to be able to speak to that particular position at that particular company. So whoever's interviewing you wants to know why you are the best candidate and the best fit for that job, not just a job. So make sure you can articulate why you are a good candidate for that position at that company. Managing your online footprint. This is something that we should probably all just be in the habit of because social media is such a big thing and a lot of people have a big presence on social media. Know what happens when you Google yourself. Sometimes, yes, there may be someone else that has your name out there, but there are recruiters for companies And that's all they do is search you out on the internet before they ever call you for an interview. So they know all about you, or at least what you've posted that's not private before you ever come in for an interview. So make sure you know what happens when you Google yourself. Make sure you know, there are things that people can post to your Facebook wall that even though you didn't post it, it's on your account. And so people may see that, and it may not be something that you want to represent you. So just make sure you're aware of comments, pictures, things that you've shared, things that people have shared with you. If your name is mentioned somewhere else on a website or a social media page, also think about your email address. So currently you all should have a Calhoun email address. It is probably your first name and last name. That is perfect to use. Now it will not continue once you graduate. So you'll want to have like a Gmail address, but you want it to be professional. You want it to be, first name, last name. If your name is common, you may have to add another letter or a number, but you want it to be, you want them to remember you, and you don't want them to remember you in a negative way because your email address is hotstuff@gmail.com. So make sure your email address is professional and easy to remember because, let's say you emailed your resume to an employer and they are searching their email and they have thousands of emails to go through and they need to find your email and resume quickly to print it off the day of your interview, and they can't find it because they're searching your name, but your name is not coming up with your email because your email is hotstuff@gmail.com. So make sure that it is something easy for an employer to remember and professional. We all take our cell phones with us everywhere we go. It's like an appendage, and you're probably going to have it in the car with you. It's going to get you from point A to point B. Leave your phone in the car. They don't interview well. Even if you think it's on vibrate, it's still going to make a noise. Sometimes we don't wear watches because we depend on our phones, but once you get to your location and you're waiting, you don't need your phone. That is the perfect opportunity to sit and wait for them to call you for your interview so that you can look over the job description, you can look over your resume, you can think of some follow-up questions to ask instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media. So I would just leave it in the car. Even if you think, like I said, that it's on silent or vibrate, if something comes through like an Amber Alert or something that is an alarm on your phone that you're not expecting, it still may go off. So just be aware of that and leave it in your car. We all assume that when we apply for a job and we attach our resume, that now those people have our resume. Well, something may happen the day of your interview. Their copier may break. They may add more people to your interview. So someone else might say, oh, I saw you're interviewing John today. He may be working in my department. Do you mind if I sit in on the interview? So John probably doesn't have a copy of your resume because he was not a plan. He was not planning to be in the original interview. So bring extra copies so that you have one, first of all, even though your resume, you wrote it, it's your experience. When we get in an interview, it is nerve-wracking. You feel like a deer caught in headlights. You get nervous because they're asking you questions that you're not sure how to answer. Being able to look down and reference your resume can be a game changer. So you're not cheating. You are simply prepared and looking over your own information. So bring a copy for yourself and, 3 or 4 extras for people who might not have originally planned on being in the interview. So even if you applied online and you assume they're going to have a copy of my resume, bring extra copies. You don't have to put it on colored paper. You don't have to spray it with perfume. It does not have to be fancy. And also bring a reference sheet. So a lot of people think that your references go on your resume. It's actually a separate document. So you may have a cover letter, and then you'll have your resume and then a separate document for your references. Always assume they will ask you for references. So just have it readily available if they do. Let's say you're doing a virtual interview. Go ahead and email your resume and your references in advance to whoever you're interviewing with. So let's say you have an interview at 2 o'clock. Before 2 o'clock that day, go ahead and email the person you're interviewing with to just say, you know, I'm looking forward to my interview at 2. In preparation for that, here's a copy of my resume and my references. You know, let me know if you have any questions. That way, since you're not showing up in person and bringing them a copy, it's easy for them to access just in case they hadn't already printed one off or they hadn't found it from your application. Well, if you're bringing a resume, that's, you know, those are loose papers. You don't just want to carry in loose paper. Put it in some sort of folder or padfolio. So you've probably seen these padfolios. They have like a notebook on one side or the notepad, and then like a folder or a pen and something else where you can put things on the other side. That is a perfect place to put your resume, extra, if you have printed off the job description so that you can look at it yourself, you can put it there. The notepad is great to write questions on for after your interview when the interviewer says, now what questions do you have for us? That's a great place to put that. You also can take any notes. So if they say something in the interview and you're thinking, oh, I really want to remember that, or I want to ask about that, it's okay for you to write during the interview. They're going to be taking notes about you. You're also interviewing them. So it's okay for you to jot down some things. It demonstrates professionalism. You look prepared and professional, gives you something to hold on to. Sometimes when we're nervous, we don't really know what to do with our hands. So it gives you something to hold on to when you walk in. If it has a pen in it, be careful to not click it the whole time you're sitting there. And like I said, you can keep a list of your follow-up questions and you can print a copy of the job description. So while you're in that waiting area or the lobby, wherever you're waiting for your interview to start, instead of, like I said, scrolling through your phone, you can have everything in one place. You can look at your resume, you can look at the job description, you can go over questions you want to ask them so that you're preparing yourself and it's fresh on your mind as soon as you sit down at that table to interview. Dress in a clean and conservative manner. You probably have heard business professional, business casual type terms. Make sure you're clean and your dress is conservative. Females don't wear short skirts, shorts, graphic t-shirts, low-cut shirts, strappy sandals that are distracting, clanking or large jewelry. So, just make it conservative. Guys, no shorts, blue jeans, t-shirts, a tie with wild, Jack Daniel's bottles on it or something. You don't want them to remember you in a negative way. So you don't want them to, when you leave, you don't want them to say, oh my gosh, remember that girl that came in with the really short skirt, or remember that guy's tie, did y'all see what was on it? You also want to be aware of like really heavy perfume and cologne. I used to be the queen of all the scents at Bath & Body Works. And if I stepped foot in Bath & Body Works today, I would probably get a headache within seconds. I just cannot sense, or I'm very sensitive to scents. And so you have no idea who you're sitting with at that table. They also may be sensitive to different smells. So you don't want something that is so overpowering. And that's, again, all they remember you by is, oh gosh, I couldn't even focus because I had such a bad headache because the cologne that guy was wearing was so strong. So just be aware of things like that. Because of COVID and everything else, we have probably started to shy away from handshakes. I think it will become a thing again. But so let's say right now you're walking into an interview in person. If you're comfortable with it, if you feel like, okay, I'm vaccinated, I feel good about it, and the person extends a handshake and you feel fine, go ahead and shake their hand just like normal. A firm handshake, you're not squeezing their hand to prove a point that you're stronger than they are. But you also don't want like the limp fish, where they can't even hold onto your hand type handshake. So just, web to web, meet the web of their hand, shake their hand. Now, let's say you walk in to the interview and the people interviewing you all have on masks and they do not offer a handshake. That's fine. Do not go in for one. Maybe just make eye contact and introduce yourself. I know some people get really awkward about it and they like fist bump or like bump their elbows. And if they do that and you want to do that, that's fine. So right now, a handshake is not make it or break it. It is not going to, get you the job or not get you the job because, again, of just kind of the time we live in. Now, if you're interviewing virtually, focus on the camera instead of the screen. So if you're looking at the camera, that means you're making eye contact with them. So if sometimes when we look at the screen and we look all around, we think we're looking at that person because technically you are, but you're not making eye contact with them. So really the best way to show interest and be engaged in an interview setting, if you're unable to shake hands, is eye contact. So just remember to be focused and make eye contact with whoever is interviewing you. And smile, if you don't have to look like the Joker the whole time, but just smile at them and be pleasant. Obviously be polite and respectful. Make sure you answer the questions they ask you specifically and back it up. So, it's really easy sometimes for people, myself included, when they ask a question like a scenario question, tell me about a time when you did X, Y, and Z. What happened? What did you learn from it? How did you handle it? Sometimes we can kind of get off on a tangent and, I have to always remind myself to stay on topic, answer the question they asked me. If it's a 2-part question, a 3-part question, answer everything they asked. What happened? What did I learn from it? Would I do anything differently? And provide examples, give them what happened or give them the answer and also back it up with examples. If you're slouched over or like these guys at the bottom of the screen, if you've got your hand in your head in your hand and you're just, that says you're not interested. It says you're not engaged. You don't really care to be there. So make sure that your posture is good. You are focused on whoever's asking you a question and you're sitting up straight, you're not slouching. And this is always kind of funny to me. Answer questions with enthusiasm. You don't have to be super enthusiastic. Sometimes people who are not enthusiastic and bubbly normal, on a normal day, it comes off as very fake. So you don't have to be like way over the top enthusiastic, but when you talk like this and you sound real flat and you don't have any pitch or anything in your voice, then that also kind of says like, I really don't care to be here. And that's why I sound like this. So answer with some inflection and, positivity in your voice. Always remember to be honest on your resume and in your interview. So be sincere, be truthful. Don't inflate or overstate things on your resume. If you have something on your resume that says, I know a lot of times you'll see this, proficient in Microsoft Suite or an expert in this area. If you're not truly an expert on something, especially if it is something they're looking for, like on the job description, then don't write it. It is much better to be honest. Like if they asked you in the interview, do you have experience with X, Y, and Z? So it could be like a software, it could be a certain, I don't know, like a certain experience. If you're in healthcare, it could be electronic medical record, like a system they're using. And if you don't truly have that experience, just say, I don't, but I do have experience in, and name something else that is relevant. And always, I'm willing to learn. I know this is part of this position and I am, more than willing to learn how to do this program or whatever, but just be honest, because what you don't want to happen, you do not want to get into a position where you have told them you're an expert in something, and it is something they expect you to know how to do the first week on the job. And so they're not really going to train you for it because you've already told them you're an expert. And so then you get into this situation where you're like, well, I don't really know all of these things, and YouTube is not teaching me how to do it, and Google is not enough. And so then you have to ask someone, and someone may question you and say, well, why did you tell us you were an expert? And you're like, well, I really just wanted to get the job. Don't do that. Just be honest and be willing to learn. That's what they're looking for.
I was just going to add something there to that one. It also, too, I know there's a proficiency where sometimes you may say that you're proficient in other languages. And even if you took Spanish in high school or you're currently taking it at Calhoun, please don't say that you're proficient in it, because that's what they may be looking for. And they want you to translate for them. And I know that was something that I've had to talk to several students about, is I want to say that I'm good at this, but I'm not as good. So it could just be that you have a working knowledge. If it's a software, just like I know Excel, but I'm not as proficient in it as my husband, who is in logistics. So I know for me, I would say that I'm proficient as an instructor, but I'd like to learn more for this position if I'm going into logistics. So it's okay to be honest. I know for some of us, we're afraid to be honest because of, we may not get the job. But if you could say that I have a working knowledge and I'm willing to be trained in this, and I'm a quick studier, I love to learn, so that way I can be at the efficiency level that you need me to be, then I think that shows great promise for you as a potential employee. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Dr. Nunn. They want you to be honest. And like I said, they would much rather you be straightforward with them at the beginning and saying that, yes, I have knowledge of something, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm always looking for ways to better myself and learn, instead of lying and telling them that you're an expert or you're proficient in something. So you may be asked questions that could possibly lead to a negative situation. So let's say you and your last boss just did not get along. Y'all butted heads, your personalities were opposite. It was not a great situation. There are professional ways to be able to say that. So, if they ask you, why did you leave your last job? You do not want to say, well, my boss was a jerk and super egotistical. You want to be able to put a positive spin on it, and you want to play up your own assets. So instead of saying that, you could say something like, my skills were just not a great fit for my last job, but I'm a really hard worker and I can provide X, Y, and Z for your company. So that is taking the negative connotation of, you and your last boss just not getting along, and putting a positive spin on it, and also playing up your own assets. It could be, well, I had a scheduling issue with my last supervisor, and I learned from that experience that it's important to communicate and ask questions. A lot of times, especially for you guys being in college, your boss may be willing to work around your class schedule, or may not be willing to work around your class schedule. We facilitate the co-op program in our office. So we help students get relevant work experience while they're in school. One of the beauties of the co-op program is that all of our employers who are involved know that you're a student first. So they have to work around your school schedule. So, let's say that you're in a situation, or you're working where, you're in class and your boss does not understand or care that you are taking classes and going to college, and still have, a life outside of that, and doesn't really work with your schedule. That's okay. That may be a reason for you to leave your job. But instead of saying, well, my boss sucked and just never understood my schedule, you can put a positive spin on it. Tell them something you learned. I learned that it was important to communicate and ask questions. When we get nervous, I know for me, when I get nervous, I sometimes fidget with my hands. I might shake my leg. So be mindful of what you are doing when you are distracted, or how you may be distracting someone else. don't flip your hair, don't touch your face, don't chew gum, try not to shake your knees. Don't wear like a ponytail holder on your wrist. I always tell students, if you can, when you sit down, fold your hands and put them in your lap and just try to keep them there while you're talking. That prevents you from being real theatrical and talking with your hands or holding on to something that could be distracting. If you are in a virtual interview, you can set up like a stock background, so it can be really professional, or it can look like you're, in Hawaii or something, but that way there is no distraction going on behind you, because you may think that you are in a room at your house where no one else is. And before you know it, there are people behind you. I was doing a appointment with a student one time, and it was in the middle of COVID. And so this was our only option. And it looked like she was at her kitchen table maybe. And for a while it was fine. Nobody else was there. And then all of a sudden I start seeing all these people go to the refrigerator because it was behind her. So it was around lunchtime, but like 2 or 3 people kept going back and forth through the refrigerator. And then they would just stop and kind of watch, and I could tell that she was so distracted, and I just kept going. I felt terrible that she, I'm sure, was embarrassed. So just be aware of what is happening around you if you're doing a virtual interview. We talked about situational questions. So if they ask you, tell me about a time when this happened, or what would you do if X, Y, and Z happened? Give me an example of. Remember to incorporate your career goals, and then how do they fit within that current opportunity? So we use the STAR method, which is just kind of an easy thing to remember when you're answering questions like this. So you want to remember, or you want to talk about the situation at hand. So introduce the situation to the employer and give them the context of what happened. The task, so describe the task you had to complete, including the expectations and challenges that it would involve. The action, so explain what you did and how you did it, and then the result. So end with the results, accomplishments, rewards, impact, whatever you learned from it. If you would have done something differently, what would it be? So that's just kind of an easy thing that we, and companies use that. Like I had a student a couple weeks ago who had an interview coming up, and he said, they told me they were asking me questions based on the STAR method. And he was like, I have never heard of this. What is this? So we went over how he would answer questions based on this. And really, it's not to stress you out, but it's kind of to give you a layout, kind of a blueprint of, okay, they've asked me this question. I know to go through the situation, the task, the action, and the result, so that you don't really forget to include something, or you talk too long about something else and you forget to talk about the result. So this is just kind of an easy thing for you to remember when you're answering those questions. I know that I mentioned at the beginning that it's important to ask questions at the end. So if you write down your questions and put them in that folder or Padfolio, that's a great place to put it so you don't forget, because at the end of the interview, you are just like, okay, whew, thank goodness I'm done. I am nervous. I'm sweating. I'm so ready to be out of this room. So by the time you're finished and they say, all right, now tell me what questions you have for me, you just want to leave because you're nervous and you're like, oh, I don't have any. I'm good. Have a great day. Bye. You don't want to do that, because that makes you A, look like you don't care, or B, you look like a know-it-all. And you don't. There is no job that you know everything about already. You have to have questions. So think about questions like, why is this job available? What kind of training is provided? Can you tell me what your ideal employee looks like? That's a great way to kind of turn it on them. And it gives you an idea of what they're looking for. Because like I said, you're also interviewing them. You want to make sure it is a good fit for you. This is not the opportunity and the time for you to ask questions like, how much is the pay? What kind of vacation do I get? Those are saved for HR. Hopefully, going into this interview what the pay is, or at least a pay range. Typically on the job description, you're going to see a pay range. If not, and you have that question, call HR before your interview and just say, I have this interview coming up. I have a couple questions. Could you possibly answer them for me? If you're looking at if you're comparing a couple jobs and you're looking at the pros and cons, and it comes down to something like health insurance, because that's important. You can also call HR and say, do you have an employee handbook? Do you have some information that I could look at? Because that's public. I mean, anyone who works there can see that information. When we, for instance, at Calhoun, when we interview people, we give them the employee benefit handbook so that they can see, okay, this is what my benefits would look like. And so that is a fair question to ask HR if you are trying to decide, between 2 or 3 jobs. So you can at least see that, but I wouldn't answer, or I wouldn't ask that in the interview. I would focus more on, day-to-day responsibilities. Can you tell me why this position is available? Why is it vacant? Ideal employee, training, professional development. How can I grow in this position or in this company? Things like that. Always say thank you. So a thank you note is going to go so far with an employer. Typically people probably do not handwrite thank you notes anymore. I love handwritten notes, but real birthday cards that I get in my mailbox. People make fun of me. Like 2 days ago, I went to the post office to get stamps, and somebody was like, why are you buying stamps? Like, what in the world do you have that needs stamps? And there are a couple of bills that I still mail, which is, I know I need to get on the online payment train. But I don't know, I like it. And I think with employers, if you have the time, so if okay, I've got a couple of weeks before they're making a decision, I know that I can get a thank you note to that person's desk within this time frame. Write them a thank you note. Dr. Nunn has got a box of thank you notes.
These in my bag, my teaching bag. I have these because someone like Julia Agnew is helping me today, so I'm going to send her a thank you note. Or another person, it was Mallory, is helping me make sure I understand Blackboard because I got confused about, and all these students know this because they've heard from me almost every day about, I'm trying to find the Enneagrams. And so I'm going to send Mallory a thank you note. She's our instructional designer. I can't tell you how, and I know some of you may say, I don't like my handwriting. So a simple email would be good too. But if you can even write in manuscript and write a thank you note to somebody, it can go a long way. Like what Julia said, this is something that I learned from my dad and my mom. And it's something that's really helped me. So it might help you too. So sorry for interrupting, but I just thought I always have these with me.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I have a box of thank you notes that I keep at home and I keep in my office for that very reason. So, I have 2 kids, and it's, if I need to write a thank you note to a teacher because my 5-year-old had a rough day the other day, then I will do that. So it goes a long way. And, okay, let's say the time frame, when you're leaving your interview, they say something about, we'd really like to make a decision soon. We are interviewing, today is Wednesday, and we want to make the decision by Friday. That probably doesn't give you enough time to get it to them before they make the final decision. So an email is fine. That's typically how people communicate these days anyway. Just make sure you have a correct email address for, the head person that you're interviewing with. Now, let's say there were 4 people in your interview. You may not have email addresses for all 4 people. You can send it to the main person who you interviewed with and say, can you please share this with the rest of the interview committee? And then they can disperse the email however they see fit. But it shows professionalism, and it reaffirms that you're a good candidate. They may have interviewed 15 people, and you may have been one of the first interviews they had, and you may be a great candidate, but you may also have the same qualifications as 5 other people. And so you want to do something that makes you stand out. So when they get that thank you note, they'll be able to say, oh, that's right, that was the girl that talked about her experience doing this. And this really speaks volumes that she sent this thank you note, or whatever. But it reaffirms to them that you're a good candidate, and it shows them again that you're interested, and it's professional. So always, always, always say thank you, whether it is an email or a handwritten thank you note. You want to express your gratitude for the opportunity. So as I mentioned, in our office, we do resume reviews and mock interviews every day. So mock interviews are done a lot of times within classes. So we will either have employers come to campus and we will set you up with an employer. They can ask you generic interview questions in person, give you some good mock interview experience, or we can do them in our office one-on-one. So we're doing them in person, virtually, however it works for you. And we also review resumes all day, every day. So you can set up a resume review appointment. And basically what that does is you attach your resume to that link. And so we see it before you come in, and we can do it on the phone, virtually, in person. We can send you some feedback in an email and just say, these are some of the things that I would suggest doing. Yes, we do this a lot. We are not pros, but we get advice and tips and feedback from employers all the time who tell us, this is really what we're looking for on a resume. And so we are just relaying that information to you guys. And so we want that to be part of your job search and your career journey. And we want to help best prepare you. So these are some of the things that we offer just on a regular basis. So this is our website and our email address and our phone number. So if you needed to set up an appointment with us outside of this class, feel free to do so. Or if you just have questions about job market, choosing a major, co-op, resumes, interviews, any of that stuff, please feel free to contact us and make an appointment. That is all I've got today. If y'all have questions, I will now answer any questions that you guys have. And I'll stop sharing my screen so y'all can.
Do you mind telling us about co-op and how we can potentially get a job with someone with the company and industry, and while taking classes here at Calhoun, and how that could benefit us?
Yeah, so our co-op program, the point of it is for you guys to get relevant work experience in your field while you're here. I know, if we're working when we're in college, sometimes it's something that's totally unrelated, and it's just because we need a job and we need to pay for, classes or to live or whatever. Co-op is an opportunity for you to do it in a relevant working field. What happens is if you go to our website, the one I just showed you guys, or if you just go to calhoun.edu/COOP, so COOP, you can see the co-op application, and then you can see the guidelines. So typically for each major, even general studies, there are a couple of prerequisite classes that industry just wants you to have already taken, and a certain GPA, 12 credit hours at Calhoun. So we don't want to throw you into a co-op position the same semester that you're starting college. Even if you have worked in high school and you're used to working while taking class, we want you to be able to start taking class just to get a feel for college classes, because you have to maintain a certain GPA and you're still a student. So we want you to finish your degree, even though you are already working. Now, ideally, you get this great co-op position. It's a good fit for you and the company. They train you during your co-op. You work, anywhere from 20 to 30, 35 hours a week, depending on your schedule. And then when you graduate, they've already trained you and they offer you a full-time job. Now, there is no guarantee that they will do that, but that is an ideal situation. So really, it is just a part-time job in your field, and the employer understands that you're also a student and you have to finish your degree. So it's a great opportunity if you're in a place where you can work, some students do work close to 40 hours a week if they can handle it and they keep their grades up. So if you can work 20 to 40 hours a week, in a field, so what happens is it's all based on employer needs. So Rachel Reed is actually our work-based learning coordinator. So she handles all of the co-op positions. And we have them for, across the board. You will probably hear them a lot in the advanced manufacturing area just because of the industry that surrounds us. That is a lot of the opportunities that we get. But we also have them in graphic design or, education or business. So don't think that, oh, well, just because I'm not in industrial maintenance, I'm not going to be able to get a co-op position. But like I said, it's based on employer needs. So it's not like we just have a file folder of positions ready, once you apply to say, oh, great, now we can place you here. Because it's based on employer need, it's kind of, once you're in the applicant pool, we contact you with opportunities.
Thank you.
Yeah, do y'all have any other questions?
Anything else? All right. Well, I will just say, just to clarify a couple of things, that I'm not, because of the time frame, I'm not requiring us to do a resume for our assignments with the workplace communication. However, if you've been working on one and you would like to get some advice on it, you can send it to me, but I would bring it to your interview. Once you set up your interview, and I already had a student to set up hers, so I'm really proud of that it worked out. So if you go to calhoun.edu/career APPT, and make sure you click on the right thing. I think some students have clicked on like a career finding thing. I think you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you can select, and you tell me if this is right, that you could select either virtually or in person. So you do what is best for you. So I know some people are like me, where you all know this, because I can't stand, a lot of times technology is not, we're not best friends, because I just started teaching online last year, and I know y'all are frustrated with me. But if we were in person, man, I'd get it done quickly, and I'd do so much more. I'm much more effective in person. So I would want mine in person, so I wouldn't have to rely on technology to help me out, because our internet in my new neighborhood is still trying to figure things out. It's not as secure as it is here on campus. For you, you may say, well, I've got a great account here with my internet service, and I love being at home, so that's what I want to do. And think about, I don't know if you saw the little video clip that is included in the slideshow, but if you've seen it outside, maybe on YouTube, it's a newscaster, and he is presenting about something about, I can't remember, North Korea, a very serious topic. But all of a sudden, his children start to come into the background, and that's when she was talking about talking to a student, and then everyone in the family started to get something out of the refrigerator. Okay, so things like that can happen. And what I want to stress to you is, I won't necessarily take off for that, but you just want to make sure you create an environment that's going to be best for you. Like for me right now, I can lock my door to my office. So, and Charlie's not here. That's my son. And he definitely likes to come in, and he likes to see everybody. And I don't know if Julie's children are like this, but mine are like that. So just know that you want to figure out what is best for you. And I don't mind if you meet in person or if you do it virtually. You can go ahead and set it up today. But beyond that, after you set it up, just make sure it's set up between, is it July 12th through the 30th? Make sure you get it done by the 30th. So that way they can fill out the rubric, and they're going to send it to me. So I'll repeat these instructions again, but all you have to do regarding this is to set up an appointment by going online to calhoun.edu/career APPT. Sign up for whatever time is best for you that shows on the calendar there, whether it's virtual or in person. Once you've done that, you'll have your interview. You do not have to upload anything for that. Okay. I know that might sound kind of crazy, but you don't have to upload anything. They're going to send me the rubric, and I'll upload that to you, and I'll have the score on there, as well as some key points to help you do well with your real interview that may be coming up. And I can't stress to you the importance of this department again, because maybe you interview this time for class and you don't really have a job that you're applying to at the moment, but you may next semester, or you may in the spring, or maybe you're about to graduate and you are applying to the surgical, maybe you're finishing some programming classes here, or maybe your general studies classes, and you are wanting to apply for a scholarship where you have to do an interview, then like what she said, you could always use the services to help you with upcoming interviews if you're going into another program or like nursing, or I'm trying to think, what are some other programs that require interviewing? Is it physical therapy?
Yeah, a lot of the health sciences do require like an entry interview to get into the program.
Okay. So this is a great opportunity today to learn more about this programming. Also to learn too that nobody that you meet is intimidating in this department, or at least I found that they're very student oriented, student friendly, and their job is to make the transition between being a student, getting into your professional program, or getting into workplace, a smoother transition for you. And everything that she just said is all about you. All these services are for you. And the nice thing is this is for free. And as a student, it's part of your tuition, if you want to call it that. But I know some people that charge hundreds, $100 for counseling you on your resume or helping you with job interviewing skills. And like she said, they're constantly being called on by employers to say, hey, we need some really good employees. Here's some tips for when you interview. So I know she's already said all this, but I just wanted to reiterate the importance of interviewing. If I had not have had the interviewing practice that I had as an undergraduate, we had a professional communication program where we created a resume. I mean, it was all geared toward workplace communication the entire semester. But because of that, I think it helped me tremendously when I went to graduate school, trying to apply for a scholarship, and then eventually getting my job here at Calhoun. So I don't take this lightly at all. It is fun. I think interviewing is fun. It's more fun now that I'm on the other side. But I can't stress to you how important it is to interview well. And I think you'll enjoy your career even more the more you prepare for it before you even jump into it. And something else, if you're not sure what you want to do, if you're still trying to figure out, like I was pre-med, pre-pharmacy, couldn't figure it out. I just love math and science. But then I took a speech class and I fell in love with everything. And I just thought, I just love everything. And my professor said, if you love everything and you love people, then I think you need to go to communication, because you can go into any field if you want to. Or now I get to listen to you all talk about what you love. And my love is to help other people pursue their dreams. So that's why I'm where I am. But do you mind telling us about the career? It's not counseling, but what is it? An assessment to figure out?
It's an assessment. So if you look at our website, we also have a career assessment. It's called the Focus 2 assessment. You may, if you have taken orientation, you may have already done this, but it's kind of a way for us to better understand you, but it also gives you a Holland code. So it gives you 3 categories that you score highest in. They're things like social, realistic, investigative, and it gives you a list of different careers that fall underneath those categories. So you're welcome. Free service. You're welcome to take it. We are also adding a couple of assessments to our website in the next week or so. And so you can take those. It really focuses, it's not like an aptitude test, but it looks at your personality, your values, your skills, and it matches that with different careers. So you may take it and go, oh, well, that's already what I was thinking about, which is great. That means it is just solidifying what you already have thought about. But if you're completely unsure of what you want to do, it may give you some ideas that you have not considered yet. That's kind of the first step that we take when we meet with you. If you come in and say, I don't know what to do with my life, it helps us get to know you and it helps you get to know yourself. So if you're on the fence and you're not sure what you want to do, go ahead and take that assessment. It's on our website, and then maybe make an appointment with us to go over your results so that we can kind of help figure out exactly what the results are telling you.
Okay. Well, what I may do is, and they can choose to add the assessment session afterwards, is I may have for extra credit. Would you mind if I had all of them to take the assessment?
Oh yeah, that's fine. And if, I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to
you know,
do it, everybody. It's extra credit. It's another extra.
And you don't have to set up an appointment with us or anything just to take
Okay.
the assessment. You can take it on your own time. All you do is go to our website and take it. And it asks, I mean, it's going to ask you questions like, do you like to put puzzles together? Do you like to work on cars? Do you like to be outside? It's not hard questions. It's not like you're taking the ACT.
Good.
So anyway, it's a very easy, user friendly. It's probably going to ask you for like an access.
And y'all can stay on if you have a question for me. So thank you. Thank you,
Y'all
Julie.
for the opportunity. Yeah, y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Mhm.